Coming up next on the Union Label will be a conversation with Kyle Henderson, business manager of Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 184 here in Paducah. Welcome back. I'm Barry Craig. I guess the first thing we should do is wish happy birthday to Local 184. You are 110 years old.
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the union going all the way. First thing, you're plumbers and steam fitters.
Yes, sir.
A lot of these locals in the plumbers union are plumbers and pipe fitters. What's the difference?
And a lot of them started out plumbers and steam fitters. Steam fitter is kind of an old label, so to speak. Like, for instance, in the days of steam, locals were actually chartered plumbers and steam fitters, and journeymen were actually steam fitters, whereas I came along later on and I'm actually classified as a pipe fitter. So some people have even changed their charter to plumbers and pipe fitters, but we have a pretty rich heritage, and we really don't see any need for that. So it's just kind of an old term, but we're going to stick with it.
So what can you tell us about the history going all the way back? Any stories about?
Well, the UA was actually, United Association, was actually chartered in October of 1889.
That's the United Association of?
Plumbers, steam fitters, sprinkler fitters, and HVACR service technicians and their apprentices.
Right.
And that's our international union. And it was actually chartered in October of 1889. And of course our charter is October of 1899. So, you know.
That's interesting, because I thought that maybe the plumbers and steam fitters came before UA, but so that's interesting. So the United Association is an association of different independent unions.
314 local unions.
In the
United States and Canada.
Yeah, that's a different approach than, say, machinists are all
Right.
machinists, or
Right.
painters are all painters. Yeah.
And there are some straight line plumber locals, straight line pipe fitter locals, different metal trades, gas pipeline locals.
Right.
There are different classifications and different charters that different locals have.
So across the country, how many UA members are there, would you say?
347,000.
Wow. And how many locals altogether?
314.
314 locals.
And that's U.S. and Canada.
Yeah. How about in Kentucky?
There's 5.
Paducah, and where else?
Paducah, Owensboro, Lexington, Louisville, and Ashland.
Well, do you all have a state association?
Yeah. It's called the Kentucky Pipe Trades.
And that's Larry Sanderson.
He's the international representative of Kentucky and Tennessee.
And he held the job before you did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How did you get involved in Local 184? When you were a kid in high school, is this what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I guess I was somewhat born into it. Of course, my father was a pipe fitter. And I kind of made an academic change, so to speak. When I was about 15 or 16 years old, I decided to go to trade school, which, was kind of, I had to have, of course, the blessing of someone in the family, of course. I went to the guidance counselor, and he told me what I had to do.
And that was in which high school?
That was at Heath High School.
Okay.
And, of course, the principal and the guidance counselor and I were in a meeting, and they said, well, in order for us to change your schedule, we'll have to call somebody. And they said, who do you want us to call? And I said, well, call my stepfather, Larry. And they called him, and he okayed it. And they said, you seem to know what you want to do. And I said, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a pipe fitter. So that's how it started.
At the age of 15.
That's how it started. And
well, when you were a little kid, did you ever go with your dad on jobs? Or?
No, my dad actually, after coming home from work as a pipe fitter, he actually had a kind of a welding shop in our garage. And if you remember when the satellites came out, the big satellites,
right.
They've actually made the satellites, and they made the posts and the jacks and all that stuff. And he actually had another guy there that worked with him. And I can remember as a child going outside and covering your eyes. You couldn't look at somebody while they were welding. And he made all kinds of stuff, and was always working in the garage, and was always tinkering with something. And I guess that's kind of what sparked an interest. And like I said, the rest is.
And of course, your dad was killed in an industrial accident when you were how old?
I was 9.
You were 9 at the time. Yeah. So, describe for us again the apprentice program, because obviously it takes a while to become a plumber. You just can't go in one day and be a plumber the next.
We have 94 apprentices currently enrolled at our apprenticeship school in Ridgeland.
That's the school you went through.
Right. And it's a 5-year program. You actually come out of that program with college credit hours. And it's a very good program. I guess the backbone to our organization is training. And we constantly keep up with technology and train our people to the very best of our ability. And that's probably what we put the most effort toward, is our training. And that's something that, we've always been proud of and will continue to be proud of.
Do you have a program for, well, like say for example, I'm 59 years old. Let's say I went through your program when I was 18 or 19. Obviously, technology has changed dramatically.
Yes.
Do you have like continuing
we
education?
Have continuing education for anybody that holds a Kentucky state license. We do that. But we also do journeyman training as well. Any class that is offered to an apprentice is also available for a journeyman to take. And we also have very good participation in journeyman training as well.
What is the greatest technological change you have seen in the plumbing industry?
As far as, I guess, it's kind of hard to pick out, I guess, the most advanced in plumbing, pipe fitting, or HVAC, because the technology in HVAC is changing every day.
Oh, right.
It's if you didn't work in that field for a year, you'd miss out on so much. That technology is actually, with computers and everything else, is changing so rapidly that it takes a lot to keep up with that. And now everything's going green. We're the first organization to actually have a green certification. We actually have textbooks. All of our apprentices will come out with a green certification. It's pretty neat. And the green technology is...
Well, that's
there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. And, as far as the pipe fitting welding industry, as far as technology, you have orbital welders, you have machine welders, you have all kinds of different processes that people are coming out with that are more efficient, that actually save time and money. And in plumbing, of course, goes along with the green initiative as well. You have water saving devices, water reharvesting devices, stuff like that. And our green certification covers all of that. So it's really neat. And when we get it all up and going, we're probably going to have an open house and actually invite some people out and show them exactly what we've been doing. Because there is a lot to keeping up with the times.
I guess, not being a plumber, obviously, but when we were kids, we used to watch them build new houses, and the pipes were made of metal, and they used lead to put the pipes together. Plastic piping must have been an enormous revolutionary change.
Oh yeah, and they've even got solderless joints, now that are copper, and they've got different kinds of couplings and fittings, and that don't take any heat, so you can actually use them in volatile areas. It's come such a long way from that time,
right.
Pouring lead joints,
right.
Because if you go on a job now, it'd be a very unique situation to pour a lead joint.
Well, when we were kids, they would have this little portable heater. It would heat the lead up, and then we'd watch them pour it in there and everything. And it was it's obviously how have computers affected what you're doing?
Tremendously. Like computer aid drafting. All your prints now, as to where you used to draw them by hand. A lot of it's done on computer now. By your members, not by, some firm that's what they do. Actually, we're teaching our apprentices to do just that. And like I said, through the HVAC systems, computers, they can monitor what's wrong with a big system, like in a chemical plant, for instance. They can monitor a big system from their office or from a laptop, and actually see what's going on, troubleshoot it,
Yeah.
and with each of those companies comes that that actual technology. So it's very competitive for them because they actually come in and sell not only the product now, but they also sell the technology as well.
We were talking about the electrical IBEWA 816's apprenticeship program. Hadn't a lot of math for that, and that I thought that was interesting. What about a background for plumbers?
The actual mathematics is a big part of what we do with the different angles and stuff like that. You can't do it without mathematics.
Yeah. Another thing too, I know there are various types of crafts in your union. You think of plumbers as people who plumb houses, but yet they're also industrial. What sort of, go through that, explain, people in your local would typically do what?
A vast majority of our people work in chemical plants in Calvert City and work actually in the plants doing process piping, boilers, chillers, stuff of that nature. If you
sort of an industrial rather than
an
a
industrial type setting,
yeah.
If they're going to improve that plant and actually add a portion of, actually add a new part of that plant, then of course you go in and you make tie-ins to existing piping systems and run new piping systems, with a new structure or a new building, and you actually do some industrial type plumbing and stuff like that in those areas too, and we have a residential classification that we actually, we have plumbers that actually do residential type, work and stuff like that on homes and light commercial, and also the same with HVAC. We have people that do industrial type, work in industrial type settings like chemical plants, and they work on the big boilers, the big centrifugal chillers and stuff like that. And then we also have a market as far as residential HVAC service and installation as well, and it does very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to the apprenticeship program, let's say how do you actually apply?
We put out in the paper, we have to list, 4 applications, and then we post it. We'll be taking applications. If you wish to apply, please apply in person at the Joint Apprenticeship Training Center, and you come there and you pick up an application.
That's out in Reedland.
Right, and we take applications the first 2 weeks of July, and then you turn them in. We send you a letter notifying you that you have an interview.
Typically, how many applications would you get?
I think we interviewed 136 young men and women this year.
For how many slots?
Out of 12, we took 12, and that depends on the work in the area. It depends on a lot of different things. How many you're topping out? Actually, how many are graduating from the program? And in the past couple years, we've taken in 24, 28
per year.
Right. And we've had as many apply up to 250 people a year.
Mm-hmm. And the selection committee, is it a committee or?
Yes, it's a joint committee, 3 union and 3 contractor.
Wow. Same people or you rotate off?
No, it's usually now some people do end up getting on or off the committee because of different obligations and stuff, but we've had the same people for a pretty good while.
Mm-hmm. Who are the committee members?
Myself, I'm the chairman of the Joint Apprenticeship Committee, Derek Sanderson, Pete Slankard, and those 3 are the union representatives. And then we have Ronnie Toombs, Bill Gibson, and David Chester on the contractor side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's say that you're one of those that are selected. When do classes start then?
The Tuesday after Labor Day.
The Tuesday after Labor Day.
Historically.
So the classes then consist of what?
Well, your first year you'll get heritage, you'll get mathematics.
And by heritage, you mean the history of the union?
Yeah, we always start off with heritage. You'll get OSHA training, confined space training, fire watch training. And then, like I said, heritage usually comes first because you want the people to know where they came from, and then, like I said, you'll get mathematics. And, it's amazing that due to, I guess, the decline in vocational education in schools, you would be amazed that you actually have to have a class sometimes over how to read a tape measure. You know, I mean, it's come to, I don't know how many kids there would be out there that graduate from high school that wouldn't know how to change their own oil because they've never had to do it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And we're becoming such a specialized. Well, you're absolutely right about that. The practical things, of course, I've always submitted that the best math to know is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You're probably not going to use algebra or calculus in your job, unless you're an engineer, of course.
And see, we use a lot of algebra.
Yeah. Well, it was Greg Hogwood from 816. He was on, and he was talking about. I said, well, I could certainly never be an electrician because algebra is a lot. We won't go there.
Right.
But that really surprised me how much math is involved in this. Now these classes go from what to what?
6 to 9:30. You take 246 hours per year.
They're night classes.
Mm-hmm. And if something happened and somebody couldn't take a night class, then we work with them. Say they're not placed yet in a job, then we'll work with them too.
Well, who are the instructors?
We've got 2 welding instructors, a first-year instructor, a drafting instructor, a plumbing instructor, and an HVAC instructor, and they're all our members.
Senior members,
yes,
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now, getting back to the classification you mentioned a minute ago, in the old days, you were an apprentice, a journeyman, and a master. Is that?
Well, now, when you start, you're an apprentice.
Right.
And then you finally do become to the point that you are a journeyman. Mm-hmm. And we do have some different classifications now for journeyman. You may be a divisional journeyman, which is like in the residential sector. Mm-hmm. And like licensing still carries a master. You have to have a master plumbing license in order to be a contractor.
But now, wasn't that a union classification years ago, a master?
I would say that it was, yes.
Yeah. Now that's something about licensing. How do you? So you go through your program, and you're a graduate, and your program takes how long?
5 years.
5 years. So at the end of that 5 years, how do you have to take a test to be licensed?
Well, yeah, you have to take if you're a plumber, you take a Kentucky State journeyman's plumbing license or exam.
Right.
Same way for HVAC. And then as far as our welding, guys that come out as welders, they actually take a UA certification, mm-hmm. which would be either on carbon steel or stainless steel.
Mm-hmm. Well, electricians have to be licensed too, don't they?
Right.
Yeah. But that is separate. In other words, if you graduate, you still have to take a state exam to be qualified to practice your craft in Kentucky.
Well, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So you could actually work with someone that had a plumbing license. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you went through the program then, mm-hmm. that way, and you would have graduated after your 5 years are up when?
2003.
2003. So you're now in the union, full-fledged member, gone through the program. What made you decide to get into the officer ranks rather than just remain rank and file and go on and do your job?
I guess to give a little back, so to speak, and actually to protect and preserve our way of life.
Mm-hmm. Now, your dad was a union official, was he not?
Yeah, he actually was
a delegate at the area council.
Yes, and actually served the local on the executive board.
Right.
And then actually was the secretary treasurer of the AFL-CIO.
Right. And then of course your stepdad Larry Sanderson, he was a union officer forever.
Yeah.
Did they influence you maybe your decision to go the officer way?
Quite a bit.
Yeah. And your first elected job in the union was what?
I was elected vice president.
And you were how old?
25.
That's pretty young, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty young.
For across the board. Most guys are
mm-hmm.
little gray around here,
yeah.
little loss off the top, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think makes a good union officer in any union?
Someone that has the drive, initiative for the cause, and you have to be fair. There are things that happen, that may cause you a rift, so to speak, between two people. But you have to have a line too between your business and personal life, and being a fair person is a big deal too, and being competent, and responsible for your actions, and you have to actually get out there and work for the membership. The drive is so important. Mm-hmm. You have to make yourself a part of everything.
Mm-hmm. And of course, being elected, if you don't do what people want you to do, you are
Then
unemployed.
You'll find that out.
How long are your terms?
3 years.
3-year terms. So you start out vice president, and
then I was appointed as a business agent, and then elected in December as business manager.
Now, going back to the old days in craft unions, they were all business agents.
Yeah, they've actually, you had a business agent, assistant business agent. They actually just changed the name of the business agent to business manager.
Business manager.
And then you could have an agent underneath you, so to
Sort
speak.
of as an assistant.
Right.
Like that. So what are the duties then of a business? Are you the same, would it be the same duties as, say, the president of a local, of another union?
No, as business manager, I'm a trustee on all, like our health and welfare fund, our pension fund. You have a big fiduciary responsibility as a business manager, and pretty much you are to promote your members and your industry.
And how do you do that?
Well, there is a lot of politics involved, as far as you have to get to know the politicians, and you have to work together with them in order to achieve the main goal, and that is work for your members. And you have to actually put the, I guess, you have to actually put on the street what your guys are about, and you have to notify the politicians and the public as to why your guys are the best. And there's no doubt in my mind that I represent the best class of people. It's really an honor and a privilege to actually get to serve them. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's one thing that keeps me coming back day after day.
Mm-hmm. One thing too, I know in your local, a lot of family connections.
The roots, the family ties run extremely deep.
Well, now Larry, I was trying to think. Larry has told me how many.
Yeah, his father was a pipe fitter.
He's a pipe fitter. He's a pipe fitter.
His son's a pipe fitter.
Right. And then, of course, your dad and your stepdad.
Yeah.
And there are lots of others.
My brother's a pipe fitter.
Your brother is, yeah. And that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah,
it
is.
Sort of like a family business.
It's a family tradition.
Yeah. And I guess that will continue on.
Yeah.
Again, talking about technology, and it's difficult to forecast the future with technology, especially if you're non-technological as I am. But what about the future of your industry? More computerization, more plastics, and of course this green thing.
Sustainable energy. That is the topic of discussion in most places, and there is a big demand for it, and you will see an even bigger demand as the years go on for green technology.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, kind of elaborate more on that in terms of your industry, what green technology would be.
Well,
because that's a buzzword across everything's green technology. We've got a green.
All your
program
Energy Star appliances, that are going to use less electricity, dual fuel heat pumps, geothermal heat pumps. As far as actually, the rainwater catchment systems, that you could actually catch some rainwater and store it, and then pump it back into a home or a business and use it for sprinklers, use it for water closets, toilets,
right.
lavatories, urinals, or not lavatories, but urinals.
Right.
Gray water, recycling, things of that nature that, you don't actually think about. Capturing the heat from your shower water and putting it back into your water heater. Water that's 2 or 3 degrees above the water coming from the road, so to speak. That means your water heater doesn't have to work as hard to heat that water up. There are just some very, very, very innovative designs that really kind of blow your mind. When you first look at them, you're a little reluctant to think that they can actually perform. But then, when you see them in action, it's really pretty unique. It really is.
And I think the one thing in talking to you, I go back again to when I was a kid. When you mentioned the term plumber, it was a guy who would come out, put on coveralls, crawl into your house, get all muddy and dirty, fixing pipes. Or constructing a house is a guy who poured the in the little heater in the lead. And it's really, I mean, wow, with computers, and it's really, the industry's changed hugely.
You know, and they've always said that the plumber protects the health of the nation, and that is so true. You know, from the actual start of plumbing. You know,
Right. Oh, it's definitely a health.
And
improvement.
not only is the plumber going to continue to do that, but they're going to do it in more efficient ways. And it's really exciting. It really is to see where the trade is actually heading. It's very exciting.
Now, say the older guys in your local, they'd be how old? In their 60s or?
Yeah.
And do they ever talk about, wow, this industry's changed hugely?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they would have been the guys who wore the coveralls under the house and heated the lead in the pots like
Right.
that. It's
Oh yeah, and you hear the stories, you know, in the old days, and they're still priceless. You know, I could actually, I mean, I ask people to repeat stories that I know I've heard 20 times, just because the story was so good. You know.
Can you share some of the better ones you can think of?
Well, I mean, to think offhand, some of them are.
One thing I would recommend is you write them down, because and archive them, because that'll be part of the heritage. I'm really big on oral history. I'm always telling students, you know, before your grandfather dies, your grandmother dies, get this down. It's part of your heritage, and it's really, really interesting. Of course, again, you being younger, my generation, we're the non-computer generation. I mean, and now kids are growing up with them, and so once again, a plumber dealing with a computer, young guy, that's no big deal.
No, it's. I mean, they've got them in the high schools. You know?
Well, guys, they got them in the first computers I saw when they built the new Mayfield Elementary School. When we went in to see it, we live in Mayfield. They have computers for kindergarten kids.
They've got them everywhere.
And they're phenomenal if you know how to work them. But if you're my age, they're kind of intimidating, you know. So I just wonder if some of the older plumbers are kind of like, whoa, you know, we have to.
Well, you know, some of the older members of ours, actually, some of them are the best on computers.
Wow.
You know, they've actually taken it upon themselves to actually learn and study computers.
That's good to know.
You know, a lot of them can troubleshoot, can fix computers, can do all kinds of things. And, you know, a lot of they were self-taught.
Well, I'm glad to hear that
yeah.
our generation can come through
Right.
with computers.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Thank you for joining us. My guest today was Kyle Henderson. I'm Barry Craig. We'll see you next time.